everybody's lived experience because really a lot of the lived experience is probably a little bit more universal than people,
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Um, and
We we definitely have more in common than we have differences, but somehow, the higher ups have managed to convince us that, we are each other's enemies. Our neighbors are our
Mhm.
enemies rather than the people that oversee everything. And it's very sad because I think that if we were one cohesive unit, the lower and middle class continued to work together and to grow, we could begin to grow the middle class instead of watch it shrink and have this more lower and higher class. The higher class is also, or upper class is also kind of shrinking too, but they're absorbing so much wealth that it's not
Mhm.
even that noticeable that there are fewer and fewer people in there because their money is just getting so much higher. They're getting more and more money with fewer and fewer people. Whereas, now we have a bigger lower class, we have a shrinking middle class, and then we also have a shrinking upper class, but the money up there just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Um, and I, I I just don't know how to convey that message or what Democrats can do to convey that message of we are not the enemy. Your neighbor is not the enemy. The transgender person is not your enemy. The black man is not your enemy. The gay man is not your enemy. The woman is not your enemy. Um, your enemy is those selfish people at the top who are convincing you that everyone but them are your enemy because they have that control. They have control of the media ecosystem. So they have these talking points that they give. And um, I mean, how do we combat that, right? Like what can we do to actually start making a difference?
I mean, I'd say arguably the only thing you can do to actually do anything is win. Um, kind of spreading out. I think one thing that Democrats always have against them is they have multiple different coalitions that hate each other. Republicans, at the end of the day, they mostly just hate Democrats. They hate Democrats, or there's some sort of usual ideological tilt usually, or there's different factions. There is within any party, and different styles of leadership and stuff like that. But I think one, Democrats have been in fear in this country about their side of politics, and the Overton window is so rightward in this country that Democrats are scared to do any message that seems like a little bit leftist because like all of a sudden they're going to call you Marxists. They
Yeah,
already do. Who cares?
yeah.
Because Donald Trump's not sitting there caring that you call him authoritarian or fascist. He's just going to be authoritarian and fascist. Like he doesn't care. And that's unfortunately really delivering for people mentally.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily like him. They don't think he's the nicest person, the most decent poor person, that much more moral than the Democrats. But they feel like he's doing something to them. What he's doing to them is conveying a narrative, which is powerful. And honestly, most of politics is really just about the narratives you sell. It's not about what you actually get done. It used to be, there was elements of that, but the issue is most people don't know. They don't know anything about what's getting done or what's being passed or who's this or that or what news sources to trust.
Yeah.
Um, and I think with that, you do seem a little lost in the wilderness because there's so much information too. It's not just disinformation, it's just a rampant amount of information that isn't possible for people to just normally consume. Um, but I also think that you could just fight, like at the end of the day, this agenda is bad for the American people, and you also know what Republicans used to say. I think, some leftists and some people of various political persuasions didn't like having Liz Cheney on the campaign trail or didn't like having these Republicans on the campaign trail. No, I don't agree with the Republican Party's ideology, and I think that large portions of the Republican ideology gave way to a Trump type figure.
Yeah.
You built him into what the power that he could give. they have a lot to seek with that. But I think it was effective in one way because you could be like, I hate her guts, but she thinks he's worse, right? Like sometimes you can play with these rivalries in a way that isn't toxic. And I think that's another thing. Like we sit there and we act like Republicans or the people who are on the other side aren't going to come back at you like you're human. But a lot of times when you meet them at the door of their house or you're out in the community or something like that, they're not going to respond to you in a way that you think. Some some aren't worth your time, right? Like sometimes it's just distraction. Sometimes it's, Nancy Mace trying to campaign for South Carolina governor. You're just attention seeking, right?
Wait, is she doing that?
Probably, but like, I mean, why else have you tweeted about bathrooms for like 200 times a day or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be getting something out of it, and it's either money or fame or a little bit of both, and then you can use that to go for governor. And honestly, why wouldn't you? Like, as much as I hate the messaging and I hate the ways in which people try to get attention. It's an attention ecosystem out there where how much ever you consume,
Yeah.
you can get money and the status, and honestly, you can just use a little camera and these little viral moments to like fuel a political rise. Does that necessarily always mean that you're going to be a popular or effective leader? No, but I don't think we really worry about that too much sometimes.
I was about to say, I mean, it doesn't matter because it helps them to, actually start getting donations and funding their campaigns. That's exactly what it is. Like they're sending out newsletters right afterwards saying how, trans are trying to overtake the bathrooms in the Capitol. So we need you to help out with our fundraising efforts to make sure that we continue to fight back against that. And I mean, at the end of the day, people are biting it. They
Yeah,
are.
but the Democrats they're not much better either. Like, I think that's another thing that is so funny is Democrats will ask you for some money real quick. Okay, but what are you going to put this money towards? How are you going to fight back?
Yeah.
I also think one other tactic that Democrats can use just to kind of round out is like go everywhere. Um, this country is really angry everywhere you go. And I think unfortunately, right now, the only way you're actually going to be able to succeed is capitalizing off of that anger.
Yeah.
And it's whether you steer it towards smashing everything or you steer it towards actually doing better and, actually nominating people who want to make systems better and not have them run into the ground, right? Like, why would you trust somebody who's being appointed to a Department of Education when they hate it? Like, you're there to destroy. Um, but yeah,
Alrighty. Well, that concludes our time for today, Chase. I appreciate it as always. We will be back next week, hopefully at an earlier time so that I'm not halfway asleep through our conversations. But Chase, this was fun. And I will see you next week.
yep. See you.
Talk to you later, my friend.